Resourceful Designer, episode 298, My Website Designing Toolbox.
Welcome to the Resourceful Designer Podcast, offering solutions to streamline your graphic and web design business so you can get back to designing. And now, your host, whose arch nemesis is the Max spinning beach ball, Mark DeCote.
Yeah, it's amazing how such a pretty little icon can drive me so insane. And it always pops up at the most inopportune times at that. Yeah, well, maybe my next computer will be fast enough that I won't see it as often. But somehow I doubt that. Well, today I thought I would do a fun little episode for you, especially if you are into web design. We were recently having a conversation in the Resourceful Designer community, which we do quite often, by the way. We've got a wide group of designers in there, and we often talk about all sorts of different topics. Well, recently we were talking about all the different tools that we use when building a website. And Sierra, a fellow community member, brought up the checklist that I had provided, it's 5 years ago now. Way back in episode 89 of the podcast, titled Checklists and Your Design Business, I shared my WordPress website setup checklist, which was a list of all the plugins that I use whenever I'm setting up a WordPress website. Well, she was questioning whether that still stood today. And I called it up, had a look at it, and no, it doesn't. Now, that's what I was doing 5 years ago. But in this industry, 5 years is a long time. So what I do when I build a website has changed. Now, some of the tools on that checklist are still tools I use today, but a few of them I don't use anymore. So I thought it would be kind of fun if I created a new list. And this time I thought I'd go a little bit more in depth, not just share the plugins that I install, but my overall process, my designing toolbox, if you will, when it comes to building a website. Now, I'm going to be sharing a lot of resources and websites with you today. So just keep in mind that all of these will be available if you visit the website at resourcefuldesigner.com/episode 298. And I'll have all the links to everything I talk about in the episode. And speaking of those links, I might as well put this disclosure up front. Some of the links that I will be sharing with you are affiliate links, meaning that if you click on the link and you do decide to purchase something, I may make a small commission on the sale. But rest assured that everything I'm sharing with you today is actually stuff that I use, so I believe in them, which is why I'm sharing them with you. But I wanted to put that out there for full transparency. So, without any more delay, let's get right to my process and the tools in my toolbox for building a website. Now, as you can probably guess from the name of my old checklist, my WordPress website setup checklist, I build websites using WordPress. So most of, if not the majority of the tools and assets that I share with you today will be based on WordPress websites. Now, some of them, like the first couple I'm going to share with you, will work for you regardless, even if you're building on Squarespace or Wix or hand coding your websites yourself. You could find some of these tools useful as well. So let's start off. The very first thing I do after meeting a client, we go through the whole process and we figure out we're going to build a website. Well, before I start building anything, before I start setting anything up, the first thing I do is create an outline for the site. I want to know how many pages it's going to be. What's the hierarchy of those pages? How many are going to be on the main menu bar? How many are going to be submenus? How many are going to be linked together and all of that? And in order to get this all straight, I use a program called Dynalist, or actually it's a website. It's at dynalist.io. And what's great about Dynalist is it's free to use. Now, yes, there is a paid version, but in all honesty, I've looked at what the paid version offers, and there's nothing that it has that I need. Everything in their free plan is good for me. I can save multiple lists. So every website I build, I have a list there or an outline of the website. So it kind of creates like a flow chart of, here's the site, here's the home page, here's what's going to be listed under the home page. Maybe you'll have services, you're going to have a contact, maybe an about page, and under each one. So services may list a bunch of services, then those services may have sub pages. And it allows you to easily create a flow that you can follow. And I have Dynalist open. I've got 2 monitors in my setup here. Whenever I'm building a website, I always have Dynalist open on my second monitor so I can keep track of all the pages and check them off and make sure that everything gets done and that it's in the right hierarchy. And what I like about it is if for some reason I decide to move something, like something was listed under services and I decide, well, that's actually more of a product than a service, you just click and drag it to wherever it needs to go. So it's really easy to rearrange. So every website that I build, I start on Dynalist. And once I have the outline of what the site is going to be, how many pages and how they're all going to connect, then I move on to actually building the site. Now, again, before starting to build, I like to choose colors because one of the very first things I'm going to do when I set things up is set up the colors for the website. And I've shared this resource several times on the podcast before. My go-to for choosing colors is a website called coolers.co, or you can get to it by visiting resourcefuldesigner.com/coolers, and that's cool as in COOLORS. So 2 O's instead of color. Coolers is a great place for creating color palettes. I have the paid version, which allows me to do so much more than what the free version does. I can have multiple palettes. I can save unlimited palettes. So I have every client palette, color palette that I've created is saved in my account on coolers.co. So that's the second thing I would do is I would create my color palette. And at that point, I have the structure for the website and I have the colors for the website. Now, of course, client's going to give me content for the website. So hopefully I would have that as well. Otherwise, what's the point of starting the website if I don't have content? So let's just presume that I have the content as well. So now I have my structure, I have my colors, and I have my content. I'm ready to start building. Well, if you've listened to the podcast before, you may remember that I switched everything over to Siteground a couple of years ago. Actually, I was using Siteground and another web host here in Canada where I'm located. And just this past year, I was having some issues with them. And it got to the point where I was fed up and I decided to move all my clients to Siteground. So I actually opened up a second Siteground account because my first account was getting kind of full. So I opened up a second, or I shouldn't say a second account, a second plan is what I should say. I purchased a second hosting plan with Siteground and I migrated all of my client websites over there. And I am so happy that I did. It's one of those things I didn't really tell my clients. I just told them that their website would be down for maintenance for a little bit as I did the migration. But once it was up and running on Siteground, I had one client who runs an e-commerce store. And they contacted me one day and says, Mark, did you do something to the website? We're adding products through the WooCommerce backend, and it is so much faster than it used to be. So right there, that told me that it was the right decision to move everything to Siteground. Now, if you're interested to learn more about what Siteground offers, visit resourcefuldesigner.com/Siteground. So I will go in there and I will install a brand new WordPress. Now, Siteground gives you the option of installing on, like if you already have the domain and you want to start building, you can do that. Or you can create a temporary website, which is what I do most of the time. And they give you just kind of a domain name it's kind of like just a bunch of letters and numbers. It's gibberish. But that's where you can build the website. And then later, once the website is complete, then you can say, okay, now I want to assign that website to its permanent domain. And you can say, okay, change it to this domain, and it'll go through and it'll change all the links that were the gibberish.com, whatever, to the actual domain.com. So it'll do this all on its own. So I really like this because if I'm redesigning a website for an existing site, I can leave the existing site up and rebuild or build a brand new one through a temporary site through Siteground. And then when I'm ready, I can just say, okay, if the domain is already pointed to a Siteground website, I just tell it that now it's going to point to this one. Or if it's pointed somewhere else, or I should say, if the domain is not hosted at Siteground, I would then point the domain to Siteground and then tell Siteground that now this website is now going to be associated with that domain, and it's done. So I love Siteground for that option. And you can also do staging sites as well for if you already have a domain, but I love the temporary domain service that they offer. So once I set up my temporary domain or main domain website, whatever, I will install WordPress. I will say I will always double check that the admin on the WordPress install is not the default admin, although I haven't seen Siteground do this yet. So far, Siteground will create the admin based on your login name, so there's no default admin called admin. But if there was, if you're not building on Siteground, the first thing I would do upon installing WordPress is go delete the default administrator and create a brand new one using a different name. And then I would go through WordPress and adjust whatever settings. I like to go into the readings under settings and readings and say discourage search engines from indexing this site. I like doing that whenever I'm building a website. But you got to remember afterwards when the site goes live to actually go uncheck that because you do want search engines indexing it at that point. Now, Siteground also installs a couple of plugins. There's Siteground Security and Siteground Optimizer. And these are amazing plugins. I absolutely love them, but I don't like them while I'm building. So I normally will just deactivate them. I'll leave them installed, but I'll deactivate these plugins while I'm building the website. Siteground Optimizer could help because it does optimize the photos that you upload, but I always optimize my photos beforehand anyways. And once you actually do activate Siteground Optimizer, there is an option for you to go in and say, okay, take all the photos that are currently on the site and optimize them. So I usually turn those two off while I'm building, and then we'll turn them back on at the end of the build. So now I have a fresh WordPress website ready to go. Now, before I move on to the site itself, I just want to share a few of the assets that I use or other tools that I use that are not part of WordPress for building websites. If I'm looking for imagery, either photos or graphics or anything, I have my two go-to spots. Now, there are hundreds, and you probably already have your own stock image sites that you use, but the two that I use the most are Envato Elements, which you can find out more at resourcefuldesigner.com/Envato Elements. I have a subscription there, so it's always my go-to because I'm paying monthly for it. And I will find a lot of great assets there to use on the website. The second one I use a lot is Depositphotos, resourcefuldesigner.com/Depositphotos. I've been using them for years for stock imagery, and I love them. Now, I normally wait and I buy credits. You can buy subscriptions and all sorts of stuff, but I like having the credits, and I usually buy them when appsumo.com, when they have a special for deposit photo credits. So I have a whole bunch of credits, and I like that they have really good assets that are not very expensive. So those are the two main ones that I use, Envato Elements and Depositphotos. The rare occasions, I'll go to some other stuff. I know there's a lot of free sites like Pexels and what's the other one? Upsplash or whatever. Those are great if I'm doing like something private for somebody, like a personal site, but I don't like using those things for corporate sites. Even though they say that they're the license free, or you can use them. They're I'm drawing a blank, commercial commons or whatever. That you don't need a license to use them. I still don't like using those images on commercial websites that I'm building for clients. So I will once again, Envato Elements and Depositphotos are my two. Now, all the text that a client gives me, regardless of how well they've proofread it, I run it through Grammarly, because Grammarly is my go-to for making sure that spelling and grammar is correct. And there are so many times where clients will give me text that I'll run through and I'll make corrections to it, make it just flow better, read better, make more sense. And Grammarly will do all that for me. I've been using them for years and years, and I swear that Grammarly's made me a better writer just through using and correcting things with it. So to learn more, visit resourcefuldesigner.com/Grammarly. Now, as I mentioned, most of the photos or all of the photos and images that I upload to a website, I optimize myself. So I'll get the best version I can. I use Photoshop or Illustrator, And if it's a JPEG or even a PNG file, I will upload it to squoosh.app. That's a website for compressing images. I find they do an amazing job at compressing images where it'll take a 2-3 meg file and reduce it down to just a couple of hundred kilobits or even less than 100 kilobytes, and you won't even notice the difference. So every photo that goes on every website I build goes through squoosh.app before it gets uploaded to WordPress. Now, sometimes I will use videos on the website, either as a hero background. I've done a few websites where there's a video in the background. I do video editing. I'm not big on video. I know I have the Adobe Creative Suite. I have access to Adobe Premiere and all that, but I don't know it, so I don't use those. Instead, I use ScreenFlow. ScreenFlow is a software. It's on Mac only, but it allows you to record your screen. So I use ScreenFlow after a website's built. If a client's going to be doing like blog posts or doing updates on their own, I can record my screen and walk them through how to do everything. This is how you create a post. This is what you do. These are the steps. And I walk them through it. And then I provide them with this video so that if they ever forget, they can look back at the video instead of having to call me and say, Mark, how do you do that again? So I use ScreenFlow to do that. But ScreenFlow also you can use it as a video editor. So if I need to like cut a video down or do any editing to it, or even just remove the sound from a video, I will run it through ScreenFlow and then export it from there. resourcefuldesigner.com/ScreenFlow if you're interested. And again, that's Mac only. There are some other options for PC or Windows, but I'm not sure what they are. Now, anytime I take a video, videos are usually a larger file and they take a while to download. So I like using a tool called Handbrake. Handbrake is a video transcoder. So it'll take the video from one format and it can transcode it into a different format. But you can also take a video and just shrink the video. It's kind of like optimizing a photo, but you're doing it with a video. So I use a tool, as I said, it's Handbrake. And you can find that at handbrake.fr if you're interested in it. And it's free. It doesn't cost anything to use that tool. So that's what I use. And as I mentioned, Photoshop, Illustrator, and that. So those are kind of the assets or tools that I would use on, I'd say, just about every website I build that aren't actually part of the website. And we all have our toolbox of those. I mean, there's some other programs that I use for different things if need be, but these I would say are the main ones that are used on almost every website. So now let's get to the website itself. I've got a nice fresh install of WordPress. Well, the very first thing I do, and if you've been with me for a while, you should know what this is install the Divi theme by Elegant Themes, resourcefuldesigner.com/Divi. I've been using Divi since it first came out. In fact, I was using Elegant themes before they introduced Divi. And when they introduced Divi, then I switched all future websites to that theme. So I've been using it for a long time. Now, I've tried Elementor. I actually have one website. It's a personal website of mine that I used Elementor just because I wanted to learn it. I wanted to see how it worked. And it does a really good job. It does a lot of stuff very similar to Divi. But I just know Divi so well that I stick with it for all sites because I can just build so much faster in it. Now, what I love about Divi is there's so many things that you can add on to it to make it so much better. And the best place to find these things are the Divi Marketplace, which is part of Elegant Themes. If you want to visit it, visit resourcefuldesigner.com/Divi Marketplace. And Divi Marketplace is where you can purchase all sorts of add-ons, extensions, plugins, and things to expand Divi beyond the capabilities it comes with. Now, speaking of Divi, I usually go in and remember I said that I create a color palette? Well, first thing I do when I install Divi is I will go in and I will update the colors, like the general colors for the site. You can do that right in the Divi options panel. I will add in the colors that I want, and that way those colors become available everywhere else that I'm building on the website. So I don't have to keep entering the hex code everywhere. They will be available in the dropdowns. Oh, and just one more thing. When you install WordPress, by default, WordPress will install at least one theme, usually the current year. So I'm recording this in 2022, so it'll install the 2022 theme. Sometimes, depending on what time of the year, it may install two. So if I was to install now, it might install the 2021 as well. Well, as soon as I install Divi, I go delete those themes because they just take up room on the server that is not required anymore. And if ever you do need to switch over, it's a very easy thing to reinstall them. So I install Divi in the themes panel, and as soon as Divi's installed and activated, I delete whatever other themes that are there. Now, I mentioned that you can get a lot of different add-ons, and there are some really, really good ones out there, but there are a few staples that I go to all the time. The first one, and it's probably the one I've been using the longest, is Divi Booster. It was the first plugin that works with Divi that I ever discovered many, many years ago. I think it might have been one of the first ones ever available. resourcefuldesigner.com/Divi Booster. And what Divi Booster does is it adds just little functionalities to Divi that are not available. Little things like when you have, say, a social media icon in Divi, by default, it opens up in the same window. Well, you can click one checkbox in Divi Booster, and now every social media icon on your website will open in a new tab. So it makes it so much easier than going in and individually telling each one to open. You just put a check mark, and now if it's a social media icon, it'll open in a new tab. And there's just hundreds of little things like that it can do. So Divi Booster is a one-time purchase, and it's not very expensive. But you purchase it once, and you can use it on as many websites as you want. So that was probably the plugin that goes along with Divi that I've been using the longest. Now, another thing that I use is Divi Express. And that's at divi.express or resourcefuldesigner.com/Divi Express. Now, Divi Express is not a plugin that you install. It's actually layouts for Divi. So you can purchase complete layouts. So an entire, say, homepage completely built with images and everything. But I don't use it for that. What they have is they have individual sections. So say you have an about section or a product section or a testimonial section. Well, they have a whole bunch of different layouts that you can choose from, and it makes it so much easy. It's kind of like picking and choosing how you're going to build the website. You look through their hundreds of layouts and you say, oh, I really like this section for the, the blurbs or the testimonials. I really like the way this section looks. And when they display these sections to you, they're not like fully completed. Like it's all grays. So they're showing you what the layout is going to look like, not necessarily with images and colors and all that, or even with text. It's all dummy stuff. But it just shows you the gray outline of you're going to have text here, you're going to have an image here, you're going to have something here. And it really makes it easy to build a website quickly if you can go in. Like say they have headers and footers. Well, say you have a header and you need a certain button or something. You can find a header that matches exactly what you want, install it, and then you customize it. You add your own images, you add your own text, you add your own colors, but the structure is already there. So Divi Express has saved me so much time building websites because I'm not having to put all these elements together myself. I can just upload it, load it to the section I want, and there, it's done. I just have to populate it. So I love Divi Express. Divi Express, I believe, is a lifetime license, and that's the only thing they offer. It's not a subscription or anything. You just purchase it, and then you can use it for as long as you build websites. Now, the next plugin that I use quite a bit, and not on every single website, but quite a bit, is Divi Supreme. Divi Supreme is you install a plugin, and it just adds so much more functionality to Divi. You can find out all about it at resourcefuldesigner.com/Divi Supreme. But it adds stuff like different things you can do with text, or it adds, like say your blog module, or you can create a blog carousel, and sometimes Divi will have something built in natively, while Divi Supreme will add extra layouts that you can't do natively within Divi. I love using Divi Supreme for the menu, especially in the footers, because you can create a vertical menu very easily. By default, all menus in Divi are horizontal. Yes, you have drop downs, but the menu itself, the main menu, is horizontal. There are ways, if you're using CSS and that, to make it vertical, but Divi Supreme is very easy. You add this Supreme menu, and it gives you so many different options that you can use. And all of these show up as extra modules. So whenever you're going through Divi and you search for a module to install, Divi Supreme, you install that plugin, and it gives you, I think, 50 extra modules you can use. And they are all so useful. Now, the next add-on that I would install on a lot of websites, again, these Divi Supreme, Divi Extended, which is the one I'm about to talk about, and the next couple, these are not on every single website, but on the majority. Or if I need some functionality, I'll look to see if one of these will offer it before I try to figure out how to do it on my own or like through coding or stuff like that. So the next one I wanted to talk about, as I said, was Divi Extended. resourcefuldesigner.com/Divi Extended. And Divi Extended offers a lot of features. Again, all of these things, I usually buy the lifetime license on them. Some of them you can do yearly, but I always buy lifetime. Then I never have to worry about paying for it again. But Divi Extended has 3 plugins that I use the most. First of all, there's Divi Plus. Divi Plus is just a lot of modules, just like Divi Supreme, but it offers some different modules. So Divi Plus offers a lot of different modules. But then there's 2 specific plugins that I use a lot, and that is Divi Blog Extra and Divi Blurb Extra. And what these do is they create additional layouts, or they give you additional layouts to, say, your blog. Well, Divi by default has, I think, 5 or 6 different layouts that a blog page can look like. Well, Divi Blog Extra by Divi Extended will add a whole bunch more. The other thing is because I do a lot of work for podcasters and podcast artwork tends to be square, by default, the Divi blog image, whenever it has a blog page, is a rectangle. And yes, you can go in and do special coding and all that to make it square. But with Divi Extended's Divi Blog Extra, I can just tell it that I want the images to be square instead of rectangle, and it does it. So it makes it so much easier whenever I'm creating a website for a podcaster to make sure that the images stay square. And the same thing with Divi Blurb Extra. It allows you to create a whole bunch of different layouts that are not available natively through Divi. So Divi Extended is another great site that I love the products they come out with. Now, the next one I want to talk about is Divi Life, resourcefuldesigner.com/Divi Life. Now, Divi Life, again, has a whole bunch of different things that it offers to Divi. And this is all to complement Divi, to extend Divi, to make it even better. Well, the 2 I use the most from Divi Life are Divi Bars, which will create a bar either at the top of the website or a browser window or the bottom of the browser window for different things. It could be a call to action. It could be a notification. Like I have one client that we have bars at any time they go away to a conference, or because it's a one-person team, say, anytime they're away, they will add a bar to the bottom of their website saying that they'll be out of the office until such and such a date. And we just do that through Divi Bars. And you can schedule them. So if they know they're going away on a certain date and they'll be back at a certain date, I just say display the bar from this date to this date. Well, as soon as they're back, the bar disappears. I don't have to worry about taking it off and so forth. So many different options with that. And Divi Overlays is very similar, except instead of just a bar at the top or the bottom of the website, it creates an overlay over the entire website. So it kind of grays out the website and this thing pops up in the middle, kind of like a pop-up, but it blocks out the rest of the site. And you can have information there. And it could be used for so many different options. So Divi Life, those are the 2. Divi Life offers a lot more, but those are the 2 I use the most from Divi Life. But to learn everything they do offer, visit resourcefuldesigner.com/Divi Life. And the last Divi add-on or plugin that I want to share with you is by Divi Engine, resourcefuldesigner.com/Divi Engine. And Divi Engine, again, they offer a lot of different things, but the only one I use is a plugin called Divi Machine. And Divi Machine is used for creating dynamic content with advanced custom fields. Now, I didn't know what advanced custom fields, or I had heard of them, but I really didn't know how they worked until just recently. It's been within the last year that I really started getting into them. And it has changed the way I think of websites now. For example, I have a client that offers courses, and these are not online courses, they're in-person courses, and he will go to different states in the US to offer these courses. Well, he wanted a page that would list all the upcoming courses. And there's different courses that he offers. So he might go to this state and offer one course, and a different state would have a different course, or a different city might have a different course, and they would alternate. Well, he wanted a kind of a place where people can go on his website to see where he was going to be presenting and what courses were going to be offered. Well, he used to do that through just editing a page, and it was a pain. So with Divi Machine from Divi Engine and advanced custom fields, we were able to create a section on the website. So now when he's logged in to the back end of his website, his WordPress website, on the left-hand side with all the menus, there's a new one there with all the other stuff that's there. There's a new one that just says courses. And when he clicks on it, we've created it, myself and a developer that I hired to help me, because it was the first time I was doing this. It was Brian, somebody that I hired from the Resourceful Designer community that helped me get this all set up. And what Brian and I did was we created it so that whenever he wanted to add a new course, he would just click on add a new course. And then there was a drop down because he had certain courses. He can pick from the drop down which course he was going to offer. Then he can pick what city he wanted to offer it in, the dates he would offer it, and the time it would be offered. And then he would have a link that an area that says paste like sign up link. So if they wanted to sign up to it, he would sign it up, or the link would be there. And then it would have the dates that we want this course to be displayed on the website. So start displaying it either right away or at a certain date. And then once the course was done, there was no sense keeping it on the website. So we had an expiration date. So after this date, this course disappears. And so it's one simple page where he can put all the information in. And when he hits publish, it just shows up on the page. And the client has told me that it is so easy to manage his courses now compared to what he did before. I've got another client who does a lot of book recommendations, and he wanted an easy way to add books to his site. And we use this exact same setup in order for him to create, like I have, instead of courses like the other one, I have book review. And so when he clicks on a new book review, he can now upload the photo of the cover of the book, put the title of the book, the title of the author. He can include a link to purchase the book on Amazon and a small description of the book. And when he publishes that, it shows up on his page of all the different books that he's recommended. And I'm currently using this to build a job site for a large construction firm that I'm doing a website for. They have a lot of different positions that come and go throughout the year, and they wanted their own job board. So I'm using this for them to easily go in and create the jobs that they need to. So if you're not already familiar with advanced custom fields, it's something you may want to look into. I wish, now that I know all about them, I wish I would have learned about them many years ago. It would have made a huge difference on a lot of the websites I built. But this plugin, Divi Machine by Divi Engine, makes it so easy to use them. So those are the Divi add-ons that I use: Divi Booster, Divi Express, Divi Supreme, Divi Extended, Divi Life, and Divi Machine by Divi Engine. And again, I don't use these on every single website, but each one of them has its uses, and these are my go-to. Now, as I said, the Divi Marketplace has lots of different options for lots of different things. So if you're ever wondering, is there a way to do this? The first place I would look is the Divi Marketplace, resourcefuldesigner.com/Divi Marketplace. But that's enough about Divi. Just tell you a little bit of the other things that I use for the website. One of them is I use a plugin from SeedProd called Coming Soon in Maintenance Mode. I bought a lifetime subscription to this one many, many years ago. I don't know if it's actually still available, but SeedProd has some other great products. You can find out more by visiting resourcefuldesigner.com/SeedProd. But this one, the Coming Soon in Maintenance Mode, it basically puts a lock on the website. So if I'm building a website on a specific domain, I can put a page up that says, this website's coming soon. And I can put a counter if I want. I can put imagery. I can put a sign up for an email list to be notified when the website launches, and so many different things. But the main thing is so that nobody sees the website. And what I love about this is in the back end, it allows me to put on a special code. So I can provide the client saying, here's a special URL for you to visit the website and see the website, but nobody else can. And then once the client sees the website and then they make their recommendations or things they'd like to see changed, I can then block them from seeing it again. So they're not keeping track of me making these changes. Once they see it, they tell me what they like. then I block them until the next time I want them to see the website. So I love this plugin for that. That's a plugin that I will install when I'm building the website, but once the website launches, I'll delete that plugin because I don't really need it at that point anymore. Gravity Forms is another one I install on, I'd say, 99% of the websites I build. Yes, Divi does have its own form builder built in, but I just love the versatility of Gravity Forms for what it can do and how it works. So I use it on everything. resourcefuldesigner.com/gravity forms if you want to learn more. It can be expanded, like there's plugins specifically for Gravity Forms. I use Gravity Forms on my podcast branding website. That's how I take my orders. And I could create coupons if I want to give somebody a coupon for something. I can accept payments through it and the whole bit all through that form. So I love Gravity Forms for that. Pretty Links is another plugin I use on many, many websites, especially for podcasters. resourcefuldesigner.com/prettylinks. And what Pretty Links does is it creates what's a pretty link. So Pretty Links is what I actually use to create a link such as resourcefuldesigner.com/prettylinks or resourcefuldesigner.com/Divi. I do that through Pretty Links because if I was to give you the actual URL to my affiliate link, it would be super long and you'd never remember it. So I create what's called a pretty link, which is something you can remember. And Pretty Link is also the way I create resourcefuldesigner.com/episode 298. Well, that's a pretty link because the URL for the actual post is much longer. And pretty links are also great if I'm redesigning an existing website and I'm not keeping the exact same page structure. Meaning if the old website had certain pages that are not going to be on the new website, I don't want to lose that SEO juice that those pages have built up over the year. So I will use pretty links to redirect those old pages to whatever page on the site I now want them to go to. And if I make it a permanent redirect, then all that SEO juice flows through to the new page. So Pretty Links is a great one for that. And of course, I use Yoast or Rank Math is my SEO plugins that I use. I'm leaning more towards Rank Math now, although I do have more client sites using Yoast because that was my go-to. But I found that Yoast is getting a little bit bloated, so Rank Math for now is working really well. But I would recommend either one of them if you want an SEO plugin to help boost the search visibility of the website you're building. So those are all the assets, tools, whatever you want to call them, that I would use during the build. Now, after the website is complete, the client's approved it, there are a few other things that I will do before it's officially the project is over. One of them is, first of all, I will turn on Siteground Optimizer and Siteground Security that I mentioned earlier that I normally turn off or deactivate. I will reactivate them and make sure they're configured properly. I will install iTheme security. Yes, Google security, or not Google, Siteground security is really, really good, but I trust iTheme security. I've been using it for years. I know it really well, so I will install it. I will install iTheme's Backup Buddy, because even though SiteGround does create backups, I never trust a backup that is done by the web host. I want to do the backups myself, and I use Backup Buddy for that. I send those backups to an off-site location, so they're not stored on the actual web server, they're stored elsewhere. I can do that through Dropbox or whatever. I pay for Stash, which is part of iThemes, and I have all my backups sent there. So should anything ever happen at SiteGround, I have a backup of the website that's not stored at SiteGround. And if you're interested in any of these iThemes products, resourcefuldesigner.com/iThemes is the URL to visit. And of course, iThemes Sync, which is the third. So there's 3 iThemes plugins: Security, Backup Buddy, or it's actually Security Pro is what it's called now. So Security Pro, Backup Buddy, and iThemes Sync. And what iThemes Sync allows you to do is that's the one that my virtual assistant uses to update the websites on a regular basis. So make sure that the theme, the WordPress, and the plugins are all up to date. Instead of logging into every single website, she just logs into iThemes Sync and it lists all the sites and it says, this site has 3 plugins to update. This site has 4 plugins to update. This site has 1 plugin to update. And then she can go in, see what plugins they are, and click update from one location and update every single client website. So it makes that job so much easier. And the final thing that I install, and again, this isn't on every single website, but on most of them, especially on my own, I will install Google Analytics for WordPress by Monster Insights, resourcefuldesigner.com/Monster Insights. And this connects to Google Analytics, and it just makes it really easy to see. When you log into WordPress, it has all sorts of information on visitors and how your website's doing and all that stuff. You can see it directly from WordPress and not have to go to Google Analytics to analyze all this stuff. So that's usually the very last plugin that I install. Now, there are some plugins that I install, but that I've used in the past that are really good, but these are the ones that I use on a regular basis. Like the majority of the websites I build will include these. And that's why I wanted to share them with you today. Now, yes, if you want to get this set up, it's going to cost you some money. As I said, most of these things, I bought the lifetime license because I know I'm going to be doing this for a while, and it's paid off for itself. I bought a lifetime license to Pretty Links probably about 10 years ago. Divi, I've been using Divi. I bought a lifetime to Elegant Themes before they even came out with Divi. So I've been using Divi for, 10 years now? Or whatever time they've been out. And it hasn't cost me anything because I bought a lifetime plan. And don't forget that all this expenses, they can all be a tax write-off for your business. So whenever possible, I always buy the lifetime. The only one I believe I don't have a lifetime is Divi Machine from Divi Engine. Divi Engine does offer a lifetime plan, but that's for everything they offer. And the only thing I'm using is Divi Machine, and that's like $18 a year. So the lifetime plan would have been like 12 years worth. And I said, I don't know if it's still going to be what I'll be using in 12 years. So that's the one that I pay yearly for. Everything else I bought lifetime for. And that's what I suggest you do for yourself. I know most of the people in the Resourceful Designer community say the same thing. They always buy the lifetime if it's available. It may cost a little bit more upfront, but you can also charge your clients for these. I know when I first bought Gravity Forms, I needed it for a specific client website because the regular form with Divi wasn't going to be enough. So I discovered Gravity Forms and I looked at the price and I told the client, I says, this is how much it's going to cost. So I didn't actually pay for it. I billed it to a client and the client paid for my subscription for Gravity Forms. Now I paid the difference to get a lifetime because I told them how much it would be for the year. And then it wasn't that much more to get a lifetime back then. So I just paid for the lifetime, the difference for that. So anyways, I feel like I've been rambling on a little bit here and probably confused you or lost you at some point. Or maybe if you are as much into web design as I am, you've just been soaking all of this in, loving it. But if it was a little bit confusing, I shared a lot of links with you. As I said, all of these will be available on the website at resourcefuldesigner.com/episode 298. All the links that I shared with you today will be available there. And once again, some of those links are affiliate links. So if you do click on them, I may make a small commission on the sale. But it doesn't cost you anything extra. So if you're going to buy something from them and you enjoy what I do, you can help me out by using my links. And that goes for the Divi Marketplace. Anytime you buy something there, if you want to use my link, resourcefuldesigner.com/Divi Marketplace, you're helping me out. So I think I'll end it there. That's a much longer checklist than what my old one was. Looking back through the old checklist that I had, just quickly, I don't install Loganizer anymore. Just with SiteGround security and iTheme security, I find Loganizer is no longer required. I don't use WP Super Cache anymore because SiteGround has its own built-in caching, and I've been very, very happy with it. So I've eliminated having to install another caching plugin. And those are really the two that I don't really use anymore from my old list. But as you can see, my new list is now much, much bigger, more intensive. And because now I'm building better and bigger websites than I was 5 years ago. It just makes me wonder, what am I going to be doing 5 years from now? Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Let me know. Drop me a line at feedback@resourcefuldesigner.com and let me know what you thought. I would love to hear from you. So thank you very much. Until next time, I am Mark DeCote, wishing you all the best with your design business and reminding you to stay creative.
Thanks for listening to the Resourceful Designer Podcast at resourcefuldesigner.com.